Woo! Wow.
Wow.
Super buff.
So just step back. I'm a man that when I come down straight. I thought you were my piece, but you played me out. Now I'm mad as hell, and I won't let down. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's go. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's go.
What's that? Pink lemonade.
Pink lemonade. Revolution machine. For what people stay, they sweat. What you say is good as any day. You're feeling lightly displaced.
Can I have the truck?
Raise your fist and walk like this.
Please.
Promises on my top. Don't cross the line until you know it's fine. Who you wanna roll with? Who you wanna roll with? Let's go.
You got the super leaner.
Who you wanna roll with?
Super leaner.
Who you wanna
By Bear tonight. Tires touching the edge. You're over. That's the super. That's extra points for that. Extra point. That's amazing. First shot without practice. I'm gonna have to send it over. Pick this up. Oh. Almost.
Almost ain't good enough.
I know.
That's what he told you to do.
It's like horseshoes and assholes.
Yeah, all that.
Holy shit. You guys planted weed at the State House. I can't believe you guys planted weed at the State House. I was shocked. It was shocking.
It still is.
Now, here's where I get paid. Here's where I make my money. I have to hit a button now. This button goes from super stereo sound to echo cancellation. And now I hit cancellation, and everything's wonderful. Hello, Jim Miller.
Hey, hey.
Hey, Jim Miller, were you planting weed at the State House this year?
No.
No, I didn't go.
No,
I couldn't do it. I couldn't get up there. I couldn't get on the lawn with my wheelchair.
Nope.
So that was a problem for me, and I wanted to make that awareness of that known, and I think it was.
I was a spectator.
Yeah, I was a spectator filming, and I enjoyed what I saw.
I helped them break it down when that happened, though, you know.
So what happened? Jim, what happened that day? What was your view of that hold?
Well, we knew there was going to be some planting of clones.
Yes.
That was sure, and that was about the only thing we knew.
I thought it was like little baby seedlings.
Well, that's what you think of.
That's what I thought.
These are like knee high to a person, not a grasshopper.
That was 4 feet tall, bro. Those things were mother plants.
Yeah, they were like, it wasn't quite what I expected. And then there was the clones.
Like 8 of them.
They had 100.
What?
I think they had 100.
What you did?
How many did they have, Jim?
Oh, it wasn't 100.
50?
Including, it's hard to tell with the small ones. But there were dozens. You know, it doesn't really much matter between, I think, 5 and 100 or something, you know, for
Something
sanctions if something went wrong. But
Sanctions.
I found it interesting that, you know, they don't have to know whether it's coming or not. The state trooper presence inside the State House. because they have a bank of cameras that shows them pretty much everything around all the buildings.
Yeah, of
And
course.
while there are some blind spots, that's not one of them. So they knew what was going on. They knew it wasn't just like setting them out there in their little planter pots. It was digging shovelfuls of dirt out of their lawn, and then in a 10 by 10 foot roped off area that the perpetrators roped off. And when they started digging, I kind of looked up like, okay, nothing's going on. That's cool. And then when it got to be like 5 minutes and the ropes were up and everybody's digging, I'm looking at them like from a distance, saying they're all on their hands and knees. It looks like they're in the middle of some sort of religious ceremony or something. You know, you couldn't really see what they were doing. And I was thinking, really, if a whole bunch of people stood around there going, home, home, or something like that, you know, it would have looked like some sort of ceremony.
And then when they stood up, nothing but planks.
Yeah. And, but then they didn't come out.
Larry.
And they didn't come out. And then it was, okay, they're packing up. We're done. What do you mean we're done? How can we be done? We're just going to leave all that there? And of course not. That was like their cue. So when they saw, pretend like they were just standing there the whole time, half a dozen state police. They waited till everybody was done, had their say, and were ready to go. So then they had to come up and identify who it was, because as their jobs as state troopers, they have to at least ask questions, what's going on.
Yeah.
So that Chris and Andrea gave their identification, so they know who to get back to. That's all they were concerned about, you know. And it tells me it's not the big deal it used to be. I mean, what do you got to do? And they didn't really take all the plants away. Those plants were being brought away the same way they got brought there. So that was a little strange. I assumed that they would all be confiscated. And were any? Did you notice? Did they take any away? I don't think they did.
No, they stayed around at the end, though, with some other people looking at the lawn,
Yeah.
looking at any issues.
Well, we didn't drive any stakes in the ground. I know that's on the permit. Can't do that. Didn't say you couldn't take shovelfuls of dirt out, and there wasn't a permit, so there was no permit violations. And that was enough, gathering without a permit. They could have said you got to get a permit.
That's a
But
great
they
way to
didn't.
get around it.
Yeah. So I mean, how do you figure that? It just seems like either it isn't worth their trouble to make a legal issue out of it, or if they made a legal issue out of it, it would have been more newsworthy, and they didn't want that. So I don't know.
True.
Yeah.
I think Andrea wanted to be arrested.
Yeah.
She did
It's
say
all-
that.
Yeah, it's odd when you want to be arrested and you can't, but that just shows, okay, well, if she wants us to arrest her, we're not going to arrest her. But
It was a historic day, very historic day at the State House for Earth Day.
it was. And I wonder how, well, I guess I'll find out. I haven't talked to Assemblywoman Reynolds Jackson's office yet, but because I've been a little bit busy after that. But I wonder how they feel about that. Like, hey, thanks. I mean, they should know where the dividing lines are starting to develop, And one is, well, if you do that, we're going to make you go away, take ID, and, I guess I could send them a bill for repairing the grounds or something.
Send who a bill? Chris and Andrea?
I don't know. I don't know.
They kept asking, is this a Tiva Cross event? And we're like, no, we're like one of 30 groups that are part of this.
Yeah, we get permits.
And we get permits whenever we do stuff. I have no idea. I'm not the permit police. I don't find out if every event I attend has a permit. That's not my job. So
That's right.
I'm just there to take pictures. And there were some great pictures.
Oh, there were. And it was real good afterwards. Go to Hub 13. It's real good taking time to coalesce a little more outside the event afterwards and do a post-mortem, And the only thing I would say in the post-mortem of the event is, in a similar event, be real clear to the people taking part that you don't want them to interact with the police specifically, like, hey, what gives you it's an immoral law to repeat, it's like lecturing them, it doesn't ever really give you a benefit. It feels good, but sometimes it opens a door to a different direction. So I would, other than that, I thought it went without a hitch.
Seed swap. I'm just making our banner here.
What was that, about 20-minute process to plant that, give or take? Seemed like it took longer than that, but
Yeah, I think it took too long.
I thought they did a good job,
Well, it took long enough for the cops to come, if that was the point.
Well, they didn't want to come. They would have waited another hour if they had to.
Just so they can miss it.
Yeah, just didn't want to stop. See, if they came out and tried to stop you from doing it, somehow it's a little dicier than once it's done and they're there. Okay, come on, get them out of there. Take those illegal plants away with you. We don't want them. We want them. We got to do all sorts of paperwork. How will you destroy them? How do you know somebody else didn't come across them if you just throw them away? Did you incinerate them? Was anybody around to breathe the smoke when you did? They don't want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So basically, everybody offered a hand and did the incineration themselves.
It's a lot of paperwork for them.
Yeah. Well, the paperwork for us is like rolling paperwork.
Yeah, right.
I suppose that's paperwork. What's up, Sue?
Hi,
Hey.
Hello.
how are you?
Great. How are you doing?
Okay.
We're all free human beings.
Yes, we are. Come here,
No.
puppy. You want to come in here? Come on.
So tonight on the podcast, we're going to have Nikki Lawley. She's a cannabis patient, an advocate, and a nurse, LPN. Cannabis saved my life and gave back a quality of life that I can appreciate so much. Cannabis is a medicine, and I hope that others don't have to suffer to the point that I did. Cannabis should be offered as a treatment for TBI concussion syndromes. So apparently her life changed in an instant, and she got hit in the head with a whiplash kind of deal. And her life was never the same after that.
Headbutt.
Yeah, she got like headbutted 3 times in a row.
What's that called then? What syndrome?
TBI, traumatic brain injury. She was helping taking care of a pediatric patient, and you know how hard kids' heads could be.
Did she use?
And her head was nasty looking. My
she,
God.
She used cannabis immediately. I'm going to say immediately afterwards, like as soon as, pretty quick.
No.
I mean, no.
No, not immediately. Let her tell you her story.
Yeah.
But she was kind of like, she was on the ledge, you know.
Yeah.
She was pretty out of it.
You know what? When I met Dr. Raphael Mechoulam, we were talking about, he was talking about, they were just getting started with something in Israel where a fleet of ambulances would have cannabis vaporization available for victims of head trauma.
Mhm.
Well, as he said, head trauma. I love the way everything about him was just so cool. So for head trauma, is a good, what do you call it? Something to study when you can't study stroke, because you don't even really know when a stroke necessarily begins or whatever. So that at that time they were going to, in some cases, use the vaporization on victims of head trauma, because it mimicked stroke. So the end result they wanted to find out about was stroke. But at the time, this is 2005. He said they were coming across some interesting information with the head trauma victims, and but then they said that that it had the greatest benefits sooner rather than later for head trauma. Hey, Nikki.
Hi, Nikki. How are
Hey,
you?
Nikki.
Hi guys, doing well. How are you?
Pretty good.
Sorry I'm in the car, so if you hear car noises, well, sorry about that.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
So, Nikki, you're a nurse, and you were injured on the job as you were helping somebody. Is that what happened?
Correct. I was working in pediatrics at a large pediatric practice, and a child became combative for a vaccine. Normal kind of everyday stuff when you work in pediatrics and you're giving kids shots all day. They're not exactly really thrilled to see you. So you're used to a little combativeness, but you learn how to work around it. I was not like new at this rodeo. It was a well-known everyday occurrence. So anyway, long story short, I went in to help my coworker. This kid was very flaily and extremely upset to the point where no one could control him. And now I had worked going on my 12-hour shift, right? So I'm literally like not in a happy place. So I I didn't perhaps think my moves quite as well as I probably should have. But basically, we restrained the child with the father holding the child, and he tucked his chin, threw his head back into my head, and I bounced off a plaster wall and then back into his head.
Ooh.
It was a 1 second fluke accident, is my point for sharing that, because it could have happened to anyone.
Yeah.
And I was just doing my job like any other day, and this took me down. It made it so I couldn't be a nurse anymore. But honestly, the universe, I think, had bigger plans for me, and I've been a champion for invisible disabilities and diversity and inclusion with people with disabilities, and just really I know what it's like now. I mean, I'm not in a wheelchair. I don't have something, very visible wrong with me. But when I get into a situation that's very chaotic, very busy, very convention like things, I get overwhelmed really easy. And everyone kind of knows who I am, and they recognize me sort of as the TBI survivor that used cannabis and it saved her life. And when I say that's really true, it really is. I mean, my life was literally saved by this plant 4 months after I got my injury, but then I had to be reintroduced to it later on because it wasn't available for chronic pain or PTSD or anything like that in New York at that time when I first had a positive experience with it. And then it's quite the story. But I'm trying to keep it short and sweet and just summarize here.
Tell
But
your story, Nikki. Tell your story.
Yeah, how long ago was this that you had the injury?
So I was injured 7 years ago on 10/11/2016.
And how long till you used cannabis as therapy for it?
So when it happened, as we've just gone into, it's invisible, right? So doctors are saying your MRI is fine. We don't see any reason that you still have headaches. You don't, as a nurse, prior to being injured and in the New York State workers' compensation system, I was an equal. I was a, recognized equal with the doctor. I mean, I didn't diagnose, I didn't treat, but we weren't like looked down upon. It was like a team kind of effort. And we always were there for the customer, the kid's mom, and the kid to make the experience a positive one. So when I got on workers' comp, none of that applied. It didn't matter that I was a nurse. It didn't matter that I was once respected. It literally changed like that. And I was called a malingerer. I was called a milking the system. I was literally put in this category of humans 3 months after my injury. And I really felt like a burden to society. I felt like, and they just kept giving me more drugs. That began like the pharmaceutical cascade effect, as I like to reference it, because you have a symptom, they throw a drug at it. You have another symptom, they throw another drug at it, even though that symptom could be caused from the first drug that they gave you. And so it just becomes this cyclone effect of like, you don't know which end is up because they're giving you all these different drugs and you don't know what's causing what side effect, if it's the chemical reaction between the two substances and you're taking them wrong or whatever. I cannot tell you how many times I had a brain injury. So I lost all executive function. So that means basically the steps to do pretty much any aspect of self-care, of working memory, of being able to cognitively process things. I lost that. So when we talk about 14 plus 2 supplements of pharmaceutical drugs and take them at 3 hours, at 4 hours as needed, like, and they're all in the same kind of pill bottle, right? And I tried like the pill box thing and I tried different things, but I could not figure out my pills. So I was in a really, really, really dark place. And my husband's like, let's go to Las Vegas. You love to gamble. I'm a former casino dealer too, just a little side note thrown in there. So I would get comped rooms in Vegas, and so we would go rather frequently. And so it is kind of my favorite place on earth. I'm not gonna lie, but especially now that they have cannabis, huh. It's my dream place actually. It's like, but I know I can't live there because I'd have a little too much fun at the slots. I'm pretty sure. So that regulation, that like filter, that you know you get into the mood, you get into the party, and you just, I hate drinking. So it's really good that I hate drinking because it would kind of my personality now after the TBI, like that decision making skill kind of, it's had its challenges. so, so just hearing where I'm at, I'm in chronic pain every day. I have this pounding headache that is blinding. It's behind my eyes at the base of my skull. And all this time they're treating my head injury. Ultimately, it turns out that I actually have a neck injury in addition to the head injury, but my bones in my neck are compressing my vertebral artery. So as a result, it was a whiplash type injury. And so it took so many doctors to finally get the answer I needed. And when I finally had an answer, even though it wasn't really treatable without getting neck fusion, I was still like, I have an answer. This is good. I can now move on with my life, sort of thing. And it was like freeing. But back to that Vegas trip, um, I literally couldn't function. And when I say couldn't function, I spent my days in bed going to doctors. You know, you had to prove you're injured. Like, so every day it was usually 3 or 4 doctor appointments. And being a patient really sucks. Like flipping sides of the table from being healthcare provider to now being a nurse, it's like really different. And to experience what patients feel and to really understand, like, wow, I could have really done that better. You know, instead of recognizing this mom was neurotic and had wicked anxiety, she was almost made fun of, right? Like not in front of her, but like, you know, they hang up from a phone call and, oh my God, that mom is a wacko or whatever. And that wasn't kind. You know what I'm saying? Like, I
Mhm.
really developed an empathy for that whole anxiety, depression. Like, after COVID, like, it became okay to say you're depressed. It became okay to kind of raise awareness on mental health that never was really ever in the spotlight. You know, a lot of things have changed post COVID. Not that I would ever recommend we go do that again, but I'm saying we finally got a taste of what patients go through during that time of isolation, of, you know, not being able to go to the grocery store, not, you know, I mean, do you remember how like restrictive it was, guys? I mean, it was like wicked bad. And so I have really bad hearing and really bad sight. Like Helen Keller and I are kind of twins, um, but I'm a little more obnoxious. But not twins. That's not a fair statement. But I have those kind of challenges. Just obviously, I'm not completely blind nor completely deaf. I drive a car and all that. But my depth perception has dramatically changed. So if you asked me to drive in New York City, that wouldn't happen because I could not navigate cars in that tight of a space. So that's just a side note. Back to Vegas. My husband gets me the trip to Vegas. We're in Vegas. I'm in no shape to gamble, to go out anywhere. I literally am at the end of my rope, feeling like this burden, this horrible human. And I'm ready to take my life on the balcony of this hotel. And I'm looking on the strip and I see a mobile billboard, one that usually is advertising, you know, the gentlemen's clubs, the whatevers. And this billboard comes driving by as I'm literally like, I drug the table to the balcony. My husband went out for a walk. Like, I mean, it was not an option. I mean, I had decided. And the billboard comes by saying, get your medical marijuana card in Nevada today. Now, and then it came back a second time. When I saw that, I was not anti cannabis by any means. But if you would have told me your kid was taking cannabis for seizures that our doctors didn't prescribe, I would literally be responsible to report you to Child Protective Services. That's my license on the line. And it's a federally illegal substance. And what I knew about cannabis then to what I know about cannabis now, I would never do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was wrong. And people need to recognize we didn't know what we didn't know. And so when that billboard came by that second time, all I could hear was Nancy Reagan and the frying egg on the, you know, stove with your brain on drugs. And, you know, you literally, like, that's what came back to me. Um, my husband, oh, no. My son had been arrested with a felony for growing too many plants in New York. And um, I kind of disowned him. Like, not kind of, I did. I was so mortified and so distraught that, you know, my son has always been a little bit of a challenge, not really a little bit, a lot of it. And it just, the problems just kept getting bigger and more severe. And, you know, he doesn't live with me because I probably would be a little homicidal. So, um, there's just things I can't tolerate anymore, and that being one of them. I don't do drama, etc. So when I found the plant, I go to my first dispensary, I go get my card. It was a just huge ordeal. And then I come home to, well, what happened was I got 6 bags of gummies and I ate all 6 bags at the same time. And I slept for, not even a little bit kidding, 18 and a half hours. And I slept for the first time in 4 months. Like, I had not, I mean, my husband had to keep touching me to make sure I wasn't dead. He had never, he couldn't believe it. I mean, because like I'm up all night, all day, or if I do get to sleep, I'm just still lightly sleeping. I could never get into that REM. I guarantee you I was in REM that night. But I woke up the next day and we were leaving that night. And my husband said, "Well, you've got these joints and you spent $20 on them. You got to smoke them." And I'm like, dude, I'm so hungover. I can't even like conceive smoking at this point. My headache's still there, but it's different. I don't know how to explain it until you've lived in my body. But, and cognitively, I was not in a good functioning place either. I was just like, "Ugh." um, because I took too much, not knowing my body, not knowing dosing, not understanding anything about it, with no guidance really from the bud tender. And literally, I came home to Buffalo. So I smoked those 2 joints and I was able to willingly leave the hotel room, to willingly go get dinner or lunch, brunch, whatever it was. And I was able to function like I had not in 4.5 months. Now, don't misunderstand. It wasn't like everything was perfect, because it wasn't. It was just, it was like I could finally deal with the symptoms. And like, I felt different. I felt way different than I had felt when I got there. And I wasn't dreading the plane ride like I was on the way here. I was like literally in a different mental place. And when I came home to Buffalo, New York, I was literally like, oh, well, now I've got a medical card. So now I can go to a medical dispensary here in New York because I know we have medical marijuana. And no, that didn't work out so well. So my condition wasn't one of the recognized conditions in New York at the time. So I got really discouraged because you guys have to understand, in my head of heads, I believed that medical marijuana was different than the stuff my son grew, was different than the guy down the street. Like I'm talking medical marijuana meant like roses, sunshine, and like unicorn and confetti coming out of it because it was medical marijuana and a doctor had prescribed it. I had no idea that this was what my son was growing, right? So now my son processes my cannabis that I can legally grow in the state of New York by being a medical patient. Like, he processes it, meaning he extracts the oil from it. Um, and I get dabs, which I don't use, so it's pretty irrelevant for me. But but I do get product out of it, and I usually donate that. So um I am not the green thumb and I will not be doing that. So basically, this tragedy that I had, this suicidal moment, was turned into a really positive experience. But when I shared that experience with my workers' comp doctors, oh, you were well enough to go on vacation. then there's nothing wrong with you. Oh, we see pictures of you smiling. That's a problem. We see you having a good time. They spy on you. I mean, it's like absolutely crazy. I actually did get them to cover my medical cannabis when in the state of New York they added chronic pain to the recommended list of conditions, and then shortly thereafter PTSD. But the hell I had to go through. I mean, like, I'm really a unique case that got it covered. I had a doctor and a lawyer that was a bulldog, and he just wouldn't take no for an answer. And they appealed it, they reappealed it. The judge would literally go back and forth. And I mean, what a crazy experience that was. But I'm say all this to just say my journey has been anything but easy. It's had its bumps in the road, it's had its challenges, but I'm grateful I got a brain injury. First of all, for the very reason I would have never met all these amazing humans that are part of this community that we all call, the cannabis community. And although we might not always agree on certain points, we may not always look the same, we may not always act the same, we might have little petty differences, but that doesn't mean that you're any less valuable or I'm any less valuable because we have different perspectives. And I'm all about kumbaya. Let's bring everyone together. We don't all have to be besties every night. We can work together for the collective good. And there are things happening in our government right now that I truly am not a fan of. And quite frankly, I'm once again scared for the election. And I don't say
Oh,
that
we are.
lightly because there's so much at stake. And I just don't think people understand things. And I'm not turning this into a political conversation but being a patient, I learned about like access. I learned about the challenges that people face in public when they see my handicap sticker. What they don't see is I get lost in a box of paper towels. So if I didn't know where my car was, I mean, there's some days it's better than others. If I was walking on ice, like, I am so accident prone because of my lack of depth perception. So for me to go through an icy parking lot and try and weave and like not fall on my face is a really important feature. I mean, I felt so funny, and I don't use it all the time, right? Like, I truly use it when it needs to be used. And that could be like literally the busiest parking lot on the planet, and there happens to be one and a spot that like I would never find my car. And again, cannabis helps with all these things, but it doesn't cure all these things. But I truly believe that I was put in this situation and everything happens for a reason to kind of be the light for other people that can't speak up or are afraid to speak up, or they're embarrassed to ask questions. I'm here to say there's no stupid question. I'm here to say I didn't know what I didn't know. And like, people that are in the cannabis community often forget what it was like the first time they consumed cannabis. They usually had somebody with them. It was very rare that they were a patient at that time when, you first smoked your first experience with cannabis. And you literally had no idea what you were smoking, what you were doing, but your friend did. And your friend like was almost like your shaman, right? He would get the product. He would then like hook you up with how to smoke a bowl in those days. And like, these are things that we forget that we know what they are, but for someone coming new into the cannabis world, they have no idea what we're talking about when we talk about dabbing or vaping or edibles or any of those kind of things. So, I really kind of take my hand around the Canna Curious and around the people that need the education. But like knowing where to send them is kind of a critical thing. And you learn about certain programs and then you learn that they're kind of sketchy. Like they're not going to be the right program for this person to gain credibility. It's going to damage their potential reputation. So, how do you guide people to the right programs without trashing the program that they're considering? Do you know what I'm saying? Like,
Mhm.
I don't want to be that chatty Cathy that just literally is, you know, whining and complaining about everything. That's not who I am. So trying to do that in a tactful, warning kind of way is kind of how I've navigated the cannabis industry and tried not to piss anybody off, tried not to ever like call people out in public. Like that's not my style. Um, but it's important that you vet people in the cannabis community, not so much the patients, things like that, but there's a lot of scam artists out there and they will take advantage of the person with the story, with the person who doesn't know any better. And you're really vulnerable because you don't know anything about the industry. You don't know what name, image, and likeness is. You don't know that certain taglines like should be yours and anybody can get that website. You know, like these are not things I ever thought of. Normally I'm in polka dots, but I didn't have time to go home and change. So I'm hanging out here in the parking lot. Um, but everything I do is about how cannabis connects my dots. And I mean literally everything from the people, from the, you know, symptoms I have challenges with. Cannabis literally connects my dots. Certain strains with certain um, terpenes and certain, you know, cannabis profiles, you know, sort of like the recipe if you're kind of cooking cookies, right? Everybody makes their chocolate chip cookies a little bit different. You can try and replicate the same recipe over and over again, but if you don't put the stuff in the same way, there's a real good chance it's not going to taste exactly the same as the other thing. Well, that's kind of how it works with cannabis. Cannabis, one strain of Blue Dream might have one profile of, you know, recipe products, and then that same Blue Dream in a different dispensary or in a different location might have a completely different profile. So, like, they put walnuts in theirs, they put like cranberries in theirs. It's like got a few different properties in the recipe, if you will. And that's kind of how one begins to figure out what works for them and why. And when I did start learning about cannabis, it was in Canada. So Canada is far advanced from the Western world. Like they are like so versed in cannabis for research, for medicine, for things like that. It's unbelievable. And like they take care of their veterans. They take care of their disabled people. They take care of, as a government entity, you will get the shit fined out of you if you don't have handicap parking, if you don't have access, if you don't have a handicap bathroom. Like they're really serious. And I don't think the US takes ADA as serious as it should be. And I don't feel like, I feel scared when I'm in a different state with my medicine of cannabis
Mhm.
and I go outside in Ohio where, yes, cannabis is legal right now, but like when I was in Ohio, it wasn't. It was on the ballot, but we hadn't passed it. And all I could think of was, you know, you hear about it all the time. Ohio State Troopers, they don't play. And like, so all I could think of was Ohio Troopers don't play. And literally, anytime I stepped outside and medicated, I literally was like this the whole time. Like, that is not an enjoyable, positive experience. And so many people go through that. So having federal, descheduling gives that dialogue a chance to happen. Whereas, like, I feel like it could be considered real medicine and people could get it covered by insurance, but it has to stay on the schedule to get insurance. Like every part of the rescheduling, descheduling has bad points. It does have good points, but
I didn't know that.
I feel that if we move to Schedule 3, we are literally giving it to
Giving
the
it away.
man. We're
giving
giving
it
it to
away.
the man.
If it's descheduled, insurance won't cover it.
Correct.
I did not know that.
Yeah, because then it's just, it's just
It's
considered,
a cigarette.
it's like another herb. It's chamomile has a lot of medicinal properties. Basil does, all of those. There's a long list of herbs that have medicinal qualities. However, they're herbs. You can buy them in the supermarket, right? So, or you can grow them yourself, which of course Jersey doesn't have. I just thought I'd throw that out there, but she's right, and like I would have never met Nikki if this didn't happen to her. She lives in Niagara Falls area. I lived in right outside of New York City in Orange County. And I was doing my thing with, New York patients, taking them through the process of, because I went and got a medical card because I wanted to be able to speak to the process and so that people wouldn't be afraid. So I did that. Okay. But there's a lot of those ins and outs, just like she's, just like Nikki's talking about, being on the other side, being the patient, what do I have to tell you my history, really, I am a legitimate medical patient, but I no longer have a medical card because I moved back to Jersey. There's no home grow. And that kind of sucks for me, but not really. But Nikki, I want to ask you a question. Like, how often do you use cannabis now?
It's all based on my stress levels,
Yeah,
Sue.
approximately.
And I would say currently I'm under quite a bit of stress. I started a new gig and I'm just trying to figure it all out and see if it's a great gig or not. And my friends are all checking it out because I just want to make sure I'm not being critical because I kind of know too much, if you will. Like, is the fact that I can't even go into it because it might violate some stupid privacy thing. But the point is, I appreciate everyone stepping up and coming to that as an employer perspective. Like, I need my students placed in employment opportunities. When they graduate, are they going to be equipped to handle that employment opportunity? I understand there are various nuances, but I need to know this course content is legit and is worth almost $15,000. And so by having people that teach courses that know what kind of is entry level, beginner, basic, whatever, compared to like expert level, like am I expecting too much out of something that's not designed for where I am, right? But I'm thinking to myself, if I'm paying 15 grand, I damn well better be a damn expert at cultivation or in processing or, like that's a lot of dough. So I just need to verify that, like, I know the program director, and she's like really correct and really on things, but she doesn't know everything. So there's another person that's in there and another that teaches the courses. But in my mind, you guys brought me on for my expertise, for my background, and I don't feel part of that. Like, how can I sell a student if I don't know the course or what we're teaching and if it's accurate? Right? Like,
okay, so we got a lot of eyes on what you're doing. Know that, okay? There's a lot of eyes on you.
Yeah.
All right. And that's why we're a community. We'll support you. If it's not good, we're going to tell you it's not good.
And
And
that's
know
all
that.
I ask.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
ask for transparency
Yeah.
because I really care about education and I
Mhm.
care about the right message being shared through that education. And that's what I try and do is keep it real,
Mhm.
keep it, so other people can understand it.
Mhm.
We don't know what we don't know. And I say it all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you'll do okay. You'll do okay. You've got the eyes and you've got the followers, and we're all behind you. So you know
Thanks.
what? Let the universe will let it happen.
Right. I know. And like I said, everything happens for a reason.
Yes, it
And
does.
I'm just doing the best I can with what I've got. So your original question was, how much cannabis do I smoke in a day? So the question is very relevant to my stress level. So normally, if I was not working, I would probably consume maybe 2 to 4 grams of cannabis a day. I smoke my cannabis. I usually use it in joints. So 4 joints a day would probably be my kind of but like there are days I didn't smoke at all. Like I don't smoke to smoke. I smoke for relief. I always and I don't judge anybody how they smoke. Like this is just my personal experience. Like you do you, boo. Like I'm just sharing for me when I feel stressed to the point where I am gripping so tight on things, that's I know I need to smoke. Like I know it's time to take a little break. And even if that's at work, that's okay. Because you know why? If I was taking opiates at work, no one would bat an eye. So if I need to smoke during my work day, not on their premises necessarily, not,
Mhm.
I don't know the answer. There's a lot of legal ease behind all that, but it's still my medicine. And having my condition doesn't know when I'm at work. My condition doesn't know when I cross state lines into a state that doesn't have the same rules as as New York. So are we really talking about patients and patient rights here? Or are we just talking for what's easy and what we can make money on based on its
Right.
schedule and its, enforceability in certain places and things like that?
Well, that's like New
Like,
Jersey. New Jersey has no home grow. A cancer patient goes to jail for 5 years for growing one plant in New Jersey, and the Cannabis Control Commission does not have does not enforce the Americans with Disabilities Act on dispensaries. So there are dispensaries opening up without wheelchair accessibility all over New Jersey now. We have to go and protest because the CRC dropped the ball. They don't care about. We're on the back burner. We're not even on the stove anymore. Actually, we're just off the stove. We're off the radar. It's sad how far we've fallen.
New York is the same. Like they don't enforce anything ADA. I've literally written like a program to literally address this and like try and get someone at OCM to kind of listen. Like hire me as your like disability awareness advocate when people are getting dispensaries. These are important things to consider in your build out. These are important things to note when you're designing your menus. The more confusion you have and the faster you flip that sign, people like me aren't going to remember what they saw 3 signs before. So, and there's nothing easy to remember that, like a number system. Like we need to go back to the old meat packaging days. You know what I'm saying? Like where you pulled the ticket from the deli or whatever and you stood in line and then you actually had a bud tender or deli person that actually helped you. That's kind of missing a lot in the cannabis industry. It's just kind of become a transactional industry, and for people that have never consumed it or it's their first time at a dispensary, it's overwhelming. I mean, like really, really overwhelming. And I just want, you know, the states to be aware and like really consider this. Like we're considering social equity, like we're considering home grow or whatever the issue is in your state, because each state is its own country with its own rules and its own laws and its own things that change literally on a daily, if not weekly or monthly basis. And, we need to recognize that.
Nikki, tell us about how did you feel the first time you walked into a medical dispensary?
Well, that's a fair question, but not a super fair question, because the first time I went in one, I was a basket case from being suicidal and feeling like I was doing something bad. So that first time I walked into, that Thrive dispensary in Las Vegas is not really a good question to answer, because I was a basket case. I mean,
Okay, how about the second time?
The second time wasn't for a while. And in Canada, where I really learned about the plant, you had to order online. There was no place to walk in and get educated on the plant or bud tending. The first place I want to say that I went where there was real dispensaries, I want to say was MJ BizCon in 2018 when they unveiled Planet 13. And that was my first MJ BizCon. That was like my first everything. And I felt in Planet 13 like if I had never known what cannabis was, I would literally be having a meltdown. I did have a meltdown. Like, there were way too many people. Like, I just needed to know what had limonene, pinene, and a little bit of linalool, a little bit of beta carotene, and ideally very little myrcene for my daytime function. For my sleep time function, I want the myrcene rockin', and really, it's a different formulation. And when you're a patient and you journal your experience, you start to learn this. And I don't think that's really, bud tenders aren't educated on that aspect about how to do the pot, if you will, how to do the cannabis in a way that your grandmother can understand it.
Yeah, that's unfortunate. Like the three of us that are here with you, we're kind of like, I don't know the right word for it, but like, we have experience with cannabis because we've all been using cannabis I've been using cannabis since I was 13. So, so this whole introduction wasn't really startling to me because I discovered when I was like 14 years old that it worked for period cramps. I didn't discover that myself. Me and my friends did. Made your period cramps go away. Oh, wow, this is pretty cool. So like, what does that mean? But we still didn't refer it as a medicine. It was still a recreational thing we were doing until much later. Not until I don't know. Not until I don't know around 1990. Then it started to click. With a lot of different people. I think it's very difficult right now because we didn't have as many options. But I think it's more difficult with all the options that are out there because I wouldn't be able to figure out what I needed if I had to figure it out, now. Okay.
Right.
The lid. That is what kind of.
Right. There are so many options. There's so many ways to consume. And it's overwhelming when you first go in, like, especially if you've never seen the variety of products or you see all this glassware and you just have no idea what to do with it.
Nikki, when you went to a medical marijuana doctor, did he direct you into what to use? Okay. And that's
absolutely not. Like at any
you just fill out the paperwork and that was it.
Well, a doctor wouldn't necessarily have that training. I mean, if 14% of medical colleges teach you about the endocannabinoid system, doctors aren't being taught that. So I would think almost it would work really good if dispensaries had to have somebody ready that if you went in, big sign. If you need any help or if this is overwhelming to you, ask for help, because people love to talk about this who know about it, and everywhere should have one. Uh, Even if you know what's going on, you can walk into a dispensary and it's overwhelming. You're going to
Yeah.
have questions like, where's the list for that? Well, is that the same? Also, are small buds as strong as regular sized buds? All these questions, and the bud tenders aren't going to really necessarily be the ones to do it. But
No.
if it's going to, I agree that there just isn't something readily available to help ease that burden for people, and
Unfortunately, like in my world where I would want to see it go, I would want to see a nurse consultant in each medical
that'd be
dispensary.
great. Well, if it's a medical
We know
facility, how
this
can there
stuff.
not be a medical consultant, an actual certified medical? I mean, if it's medicine, then there should be medical
Right, right. And
personnel there.
nursing is based on holistic care. So this is the
Yeah.
basis of our whole
Well,
profession.
nurses for
we are the
patient
most-
care, it's always been nurses over doctors for
Yeah.
patient care. I mean, if you
And-
really want to know what's going on and you're in a hospital, don't ask the doctor, ask the nurse.
Well, we're the most trusted profession in the country. We have been for the past 22 years. So that's a given. We have a
That's what-
very large group of cannabis nurses that could do that if they would let us. But you know what? You walk into a dispensary that is a medical dispensary, and I have asked this question to whoever is behind the counter, behind the screen, the Wizard of Oz, whatever. And I've said, "So how much do you get paid to do this? $14 an hour." Oh, well, you know what? I don't think I want to, like help you guys out either, and I don't want you taking me over to your other counter where you have your own stuff, because I don't even know what that is. I don't know what your stuff is, and it's turned into a real, and pardon my lingo, but it's a shit show. It's fucked up out there. It really is. It's not, the intention was never to be this far gone, and it is. And it's like, how do we as a community, I mean, you guys are part of the community, we're one big community, and we have to blend like that. And how do we bring it back to what the original intention was? How do we do that? I mean, I know how I would want to do.
The original intention was never achieved, so we can't be brought back to the actual any success we've had. I think
I'm not talking about success. I'm talking about the original intention was to recognize the plant for what it is. Okay.
Original intention of who? Maybe I'm confused. I mean, what an original intention of
All right.
getting
When
the
Patients,
program
patient
together.
care.
Well, I'd say in New Jersey, the original intention of the program. I mean, is that what you're talking about? The original intention of having medical program?
Yeah, the original intention of what the medical programs were supposed to be.
Yeah, well,
Intention
then
and the original. Let me talk a minute, Jim. Okay, because you and I battle over talking.
No, I haven't spoken at all tonight. You got to give me credit.
You're good.
You've been
Oh,
perfect.
You're good. I'm going to give you a hug, a virtual hug. But like, think about this. Like, okay, so we have this community of people, okay, of all different levels. All right. So our original intention when we all came together and we said, okay, this is what we have to fight for, because this was a fight. This was not easy. It shouldn't have taken this long, but it did, and it still is happening. Okay. And now and I keep bringing this up, we've gotten kicked to the back of the line because of psychedelics. Okay. And that does not make me happy at all. All right. But the original intention was to bring it to the people, let us decide. The whole pro-choice movement is not just about, abortion. It's about, I get to choose what I do for me. Okay. What is available for me. And because there have been numerous studies done on cannabis, more than they like to talk about. So bullshit already, I call bullshit on that, because there is no reason for us to be in the shape that we're in right now. This is ridiculous already. It's gotten to the ridiculous point. And for me to move from New York back to Jersey and find out there's no home grow, oh, well, what do I do with my plants now? Okay, that's nice. I didn't know because I wasn't paying attention when I moved back over the border. All right. So I have to be worried about that. Like that's, it's it's horrible. It's
Jim,
just,
what was your point? Your point was that we never even got to that intended area that we're.
No, my point was we weren't kicked to the back of the line. We got in the back of the line because that's just where you get in, and everybody else got in front of us. I mean, we've always been, the only time we don't come in second is when there's 3 people in the contest. Then we come in third. It's and what it was intended to be. It's a medical program, medical marijuana. It was intended to work as medicine for people, and for that to happen, they have to have access to it. The fact is, home grow is the single biggest impediment to access, and that if it was descheduled, insurance wouldn't cover it, and in most cases it wouldn't have to. But even when insurance can cover something, it just means it comes back to everybody paying insurance in that pool. I mean,
right.
It costs somebody something.
Right, and then there would be co-pays and all that.
Our community is known for one thing. Our cannabis community does like to share. Oh, everybody's got a business interests going on, but if somebody grew more than they needed, if they didn't need money per se, it'd be given away to other patients. It's just
if you ride up and down Route 23 in up here in Jersey, North Jersey, we're split into 3 different, that 609 area code. Anyway, there's bud buses. Everybody's handing out their weed that they have too much of.
Yeah,
That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. It's pretty cool, but like, do you really know what I still don't know what I'm getting.
Okay, you don't know what you're getting, but you do know what you're not getting when you can't afford it. You're not getting anything. So any port in a storm works for a lot of people. I don't want to know that I'm getting nothing, and I don't want to know what it is I need if I can't get it or anything else. So
I know a patient with MS who went to Washington Square Park to go get cannabis in Washington Square Park off the street because that was the only source at that time.
Yeah, well, it's also, and it's not just access. It's something that goes far beyond just about anything else. It affects whole families because other families are involved in that financial sphere, and there are decisions being made on medicine, or are the kids going to need something? And if I maybe I'll take my medicine when I'm around the kids because I got to beat a rock and I'll suffer in pain alone. This whole other dynamic because of home grow. And excuse me if I get a little upset when people who are, there's just no way to regulate it. Well, don't fucking regulate it then. How about when somebody complains, take care of the complaint. If nobody's complaining, good. Go to where people are complaining. So
I think I shared with you all that when I lived in New York, nobody was complaining and nobody was paying attention. And you could have 7 medical patients living in one house, and each of those patients could grow 7 plants. Not 1 plant, not 2 plants, 7. Okay, so now we're talking 49 plants, give or take, right? My son moved to Seattle, I don't know, 25 years ago. So because that's where he could start his grow. Okay, he did that for medicinal value. Okay, things have changed out there too. However, if we did have home grow in every single state in this country, then you know what? It's a done deal, Like I grow my basil, so I can grow it right next to my basil.
Well, it's a done deal. It's always going to be about patience for me. It's a done deal for patients when that happens for sure, because it's people actually having to spend the money they did spend, at least at first. It's so absurd. I still can't wrap my head around somebody spending that $400 to $500 for an ounce of something that it's a weed. And I'm thinking there would have been some reparations when all this is done. It's like, hey, look how much all the patients paid. We were pretty wrong about it, but now we got under control. Prices way down. How about we get some reimbursement, or something free. It's I don't know. I only got about another. I only got
It's
about
how
another
about
2
just
minutes
leave
on
us
that.
alone, right?
What's
It's really how about just leave us alone.
Oh
Just leave
yeah.
us alone.
Well, yeah, that's a good one. That'll happen.
That's all.
Yeah, they'll leave us alone and they'll listen in to make sure we are doing the right thing while they just,
Yeah, well, they're
it's
listening
sort
now.
of like,
Say hi to everybody.
right, just like the state police and Trenton, they left us alone. They planted. Look how well it worked out. And I'll bet if push came to shove, we could go out and fix the grounds as well as anybody. Let nature take over. It grows over. I don't know. It's
Plant them trees, baby.
yeah. It's that's why it's just and yeah, psychedelics. Again, they just sort of got in line in front. They didn't. There was no. I had my objections within my own other organization. And what really got me was when Herb Conway was talking in terms of allowing growing of mushrooms. The same man who made sure we couldn't grow cannabis plants in 2009, the same man who would not bring up a patient home grow bill for 3 years when it was in his health committee, is okay. Now it sounds different when you come to understand. I don't know. Yeah, home growing, I don't think was exactly the right term. I think it was places that were going to be certified for
Caregivers.
Yeah, they would grow it. We wouldn't get to grow. Come on, people in New Jersey, fool me once, okay, but to believe that you're going to get to grow your own mushrooms when you can't grow your own cannabis, that's a little bit naive. So, I've certainly read the bill, and it has nothing to do with personal home grow.
There's no money to be made with psilocybin anyway. I don't really.
Yeah. And there's no money there's no real money for the state to make off patients anymore. Their slice of the tax pie was certainly finally no longer an issue. And they don't really have the kind of fees, the state, to impose that they do on adult consumption concerns. So they really better let go of the rope this year, because after that, it's just hurting sick people for no real reason, at all. One more time, I'll say before I have to get going, is Nick Scutari doesn't want adults to have it. It's not about patients, but if he starts talking with patients, then adults are going to want to talk with him too about them. What about us? What about us? What about us? Hey, what about us? And he doesn't want to hear the what about us. Patients, he can scoot around, scoot.
Yeah.
But he's just lumping it all together, muddying the waters on purpose. He never says patient home grow or adult home grow. He calls it home grow. No matter if you ask him about patient home grow, he'll start talking about we need to get the program up and running. And then when somebody says, yo, the program's been up and running, he's talking about adult home grow. He just freely jumps back and forth to whatever suits his purpose. So that being said, he also is going to need to let go of the rope here pretty soon, because if the bill doesn't get heard by May, before we start taking up budget issues, and it's going to go into the second half of the session, which is when you can start to run the clock out. I don't think we're going to let it go quietly through till they come back in session. This is going to be a time for some real extracurricular activities, much like the planting, but that was kind of ceremonial. I know Lefty and I have more of a quiet, solemn protest of 3 people or so right out in front of his house, where and announced to him and the local police that this will be happening through an Esquire letter. And that's not even civil disobedience. That's First Amendment rights, to stand there facing away from his house with a sign, not even interacting with each other. Just 3 hours, signs up, out towards the road, double signs so whoever's in the house behind you can see it. And that is allowed, and it's going to happen. And I got talked out of doing it before to let the process work out through May, and that was my deal. That's a whole nother thing. I'm not going to get into that, but I was talked out of doing that because I'm not always right, and maybe there was some things going on. Didn't want it to get in the way behind the scenes, but I know enough to know behind the scenes what's going on. If it isn't posted for a hearing now, there's a problem, because when it sits in a committee where the person that would want to post it is a co-sponsor, and where he's been asked by the co-sponsor, as has to happen to get the bill posted, that'll mean somebody's in the way of it and trying to push it down the road a little bit. And that's going to be absolutely unacceptable to me in a very, very big way. So I'm sitting back with all that, just being kind of quiet about it, being in touch with everybody. But yeah, it's going to get real, if that happens, because last 2 years, it was just take a knee for 2 years, and do nothing. And, what other healthcare issue would get treated like that ever? So, Nikki, you're right. It should be treated like a healthcare issue. It's a healthcare issue. But the damage has been done, and it shouldn't be done any longer. And, to be fair, for me, because I was a social consumer as well, I actually smoke less now as a patient than I did.
Because you're old.
Well, yeah, because I'm old and I got to conserve because I'm poor, because I don't have income, not really. So now that it's become medicine, I really don't want to run out, and now the more that I know, and, most recently being confirmed and advanced by Dr. Peter 2 weeks ago. I want my receptors. I want them full. They don't have to be overflowing. I got to conserve. Yeah, I got to conserve to that effect, and I don't mind doing it. That's just a fact. I'm not bitching, but I certainly do not go to dispensaries because I can't afford it. And if I knew what I was running out of, I'd rather not know what it is I am not running out of. It just works for me better that way. What I need isn't so. It's pain. And I just need it to be lowered. It doesn't have to be gone. Also, I wrestle with things from the past. I guess people would call from the past the post-traumatic stress of having been a caregiver under extreme circumstances. I know it's not like wartime stuff, but when things like you just walk into the room because you hear something, and Cheryl, what's going on? And you see her head snapping back and forth, and she's digging, there's a seizure of some sort, and life changes like that for,
Yeah.
So anyway, I don't have a lot of it, just about any of it works as opposed to nothing. To keep things blended, I got a carnival inside my head going on 24 hours a day, and it has to be a little more orderly sometimes, like the merry-go-round should be going around, not up and down also. Oh, I like that. I think I'll keep that one. Listen,
There you go.
I always like to say I have a committee in my head telling me.
Oh, there you go. Yeah.
I have a committee.
Yeah. Well, my problem is if I think it and I don't verbalize it, it gets lost with all the other everything else. But if I say it one time, I got a shot to remember. I have audio memory better than carnival memory, you know. Well, listen, I got to get going. I'm glad I didn't forget tonight, like I forgot Tuesday. We changed our board meetings to Tuesday. And
I know.
yeah, so Monday, the first time it was scheduled for Tuesday, the Monday was the Earth Day, planting day. And after a big day there, and Kathy said, "So is there a meeting tonight?" Nah, we couldn't be one tonight. Everything went on late. Lefty won't even be home by then, probably. I didn't think, oh no, we changed it. You know, now I think that's because I'm 71, not because I'm a cannabis consumer, though. I'm always going with old age.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm not fessing up to it might be the other, even though I think we know it might, you know. Nikki, good talking to you. I'm real glad you came on to tell us how it works. You know, a lot of it really stirred up. Yeah, okay, yeah, that's true, you know. And what I liked was especially the invisible disability. I made a note, that's why I'm looking. And because the invisible disability, whenever I show somebody when we got arrested for Cheryl eating some marijuana in a congressman's office doorway, NBC News footage, it's the same one every time. It always gets to that point that it was a success, even though we got arrested. That was the point. But the congressman was out there explaining everything because after we got arrested, he wanted to talk to us first, and then he went back out to try to, do some PR repair. And he said, I did say, while I don't support medical marijuana in the main, I did say in committee that I would make an exception for people who appear to be in Cheryl's condition, I said, thank you. He's saying, yeah, I'd make an exception for people who appear to be in Cheryl's condition. And I'm thinking, so basically, when she didn't appear to be in that condition herself, and she had MS, and now we know it may slow the progression. You shouldn't have to wait till you get there, and you can't see cancer in many cases.
Facts.
You can't see pain if it's not causing somebody to limp. The presumptuous nature of that, and that we do have a Senate president who's already offered a qualifier. Well, for medical marijuana, that's going to happen at some point. I can't say when, but probably just for a really strict amount for the people who are in the worst pain. He didn't even know how to qualify it, but he's wanting to do it only for people who need it more dramatically, ignoring the fact that it could keep you from getting to where you need it that dramatically, and so anyway, it's that whole idea that if it doesn't look that bad, it's probably not that bad. And man, that's just going to go on forever, and also when you're a nurse or a doctor or any kind of clinician, especially if you work at a hospital, yeah, until you got to stay in a hospital for a little bit and go through that system. I think some of the best healthcare workers are because they've experienced it, and the guy that fixed me explained to me early on he was in a motorcycle accident, and at some point pretty soon after that he found himself with his hand around a doctor's throat because he was in like pain a bit, and then so sorry that happened.
I was run over by a car, and I'm a trauma nurse. So yeah, so nobody likes to hear that, but
I didn't laugh at that. How rude was that? But I wasn't laughing.
Yeah,
it just sounds like I got run over by a car. I'm a trauma nurse. It's like
I'm a trauma nurse.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, knowledge is a bad thing. Hey, yeah, I got to go.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll see you next week. And
thanks for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
Well, Nikki, I have a question for you. The second time when you woke up from your the pot coma, I don't know what to call it. Your first experience with edibles. You woke up, you had a couple of joints. You smoke. How did you feel after you smoked that first joint?
Good question.
Not as hungover.
Yeah.
Well, that's what it does. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like a hair of a dog to bit you. Yeah. Well, there you
You
go.
know, it was definitely
Yeah.
and I have no idea what the percentage was or what it was or anything, like, because I had no idea what any of it was. So,
I
you know,
think
it's like,
it's somehow the story about Vegas and being out on the balcony and the critical nature of that point. You know, that's a good story. You know
It's
how
a really good story, isn't it?
yeah, it's a lifesaver in overlapping ways, you know, from different directions, and then it's also maintains that quality of life once you get there. So yeah, the reverence is well placed by all of us, I think. You know.
yeah, I mean, the plant saves lives, and we just need to share our stories. And, you know, people can relate to people much better than they can, you know, a scientific book, if you will, you know.
Yeah.
Not that they don't need that reference as well, but we don't know what we don't know, and we have the responsibility to teach other people, whether that's politicians, whether that's law enforcement, healthcare, students. You know, there's just so much responsibility once you start to really understand what this plant is and how it can help so many people.
And
And
I'm looking at the four people here. We've all had some physical experience that
Wow.
gives us all a very personal understanding. And I feel like I'm probably on the bottom of that totem pole too. You know, I mean, and the top, whatever is the easiest part of the totem pole. You know, I mean, I wouldn't trade places with any of you.
No, you really wouldn't. You
No,
really
no,
wouldn't.
no, yeah, you know, I really wouldn't. But I'd advise if I look all smiley and all that. And you know, right now I have virtually no pain. I mean, I don't even call it pain. What I feel is not pain. It's a sensation that it certainly ain't pain anymore. But and
You just think you're in pain.
yeah, but
You
you
have
know what?
neuropathy?
Yeah, by the time I got
Neuropathy?
back from Thursday, I had trouble driving because on those
Don't
feet.
say that too loud. They'll take
Yeah.
your license. You're old now.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking. I did the math. Okay, 4 people. There's no dirty rats here, you know.
And when you're a boxer, you never tell the ref, "I can't see." They'll stop.
right.
Never say that. Fight's
Well,
over.
You know, maybe if you want to stop the fight or something like that. I took boxing in college, and I thought that'd be a good thing to do, you know. But the third, you have to, if you want to change your class, your physical education, you have 3 days to do it, 3 classes to do it, and you can just do something else. And the third day, it was like gloves on and all that, and it was good for about 30 seconds. And then, I don't know, guy countered, I got hit square. It turned my head around. I didn't even stop. I just kept walking over to the doors because there was laces. I was trying to unlace the thing with that. The guy, what are you doing? What are you doing? I got time to schedule myself for some volleyball. Help me off with these, man. I got to hurry, you know. That was it.
Yeah. Wow.
You know, and that was also right when I was first smoking cannabis. And there was something about having volleyball as a class, you know, we're actually going to get a grade for it that counts it. It's like a grade. I think it's awesome. And I had it with a friend of mine, a new friend, and we both had nothing before that class, so we could go this brand new experience in 1970, smoking pot, you know, and then we'd go out and play volleyball. It was like the world was right, you know.
Well, guys, I gotta run. I've
Yeah.
got another podcast to hit, but thanks
I'm going to
so
be
much
out of
for
here. Bye
having
bye.
me.
One
All
last
right.
question, Nikki. One last question. What's your
Yes.
favorite munchie food?
Peanut butter M&Ms.
Peanut butter and M&Ms, or
Peanut butter M&Ms, like M&Ms that are the peanut butter ones. Like
Ooh.
I'm definitely into those.
Oh,
But if I need salt, then I'll do a little chippy stuff, you know, potato chips.
what about hot food?
good food is like what it comes down to. I don't crave food as much as I used to, but it is what it is. So, um, usually it's a specific restaurant's particular dish. It's not usually just pizza or something like that. It's usually, the filet at the casino
Oh,
with cooked
right.
like this, cooked like that with the potato pancakes. You know what I'm saying? Like
Oh,
it's like a whole thing.
oh, potato pancakes. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
that sounds good. I just had some stuffed fish the other day. It was stuffed with crab meat. It was so good. Oh my goodness.
Mm.
But
Yeah. you make
thanks
me-
again for having me.
Thanks, Nikki. You're the
And I'm
best. We
going to
appreciate it.
all right. Have a great
All
night.
right. And we'll talk, Nikki.
Okay,
how
sounds good, Sue.
Can we reach out to you? Is there a way? Do you have a website or
Yeah,
something?
I have nikkiandtheplant.org. It's Nikki NIKKI and theplant.org. I'm also on all social media platforms as Nikki Lawley or Nikki and the Plant.
Yeah, and I
Awesome.
think Lefty, I really did send you all that stuff, so you just have to read it.
Read.
I got right on my bio, man. I'm efficient with that. But thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Nikki, so much. Okay.
Have a beautiful
Love you,
night.
and we'll
Loves.
talk soon. Okay.
Okay, sounds great.
All right.
Bye, friends.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Wow, Sue, you're right. She's really awesome.
Isn't she good? You know what's good about her that I like is because she came in as a naive patient. She's not a me and you and I, well, however the proper English is. You know what I mean? Like I started smoking weed at, like I said, at 13, right? How old were you?
13.
Okay. So when we became, we both are medical patients by all intents and purposes, we are. I have Hep C. I've had it for, I don't know, 30 years. The CDC followed me. I had to hide in my lawyer's office. The hospital, they betrayed my confidence. And there were radio shows on about me. Would you want a nurse with hepatitis C taking care of you? It wasn't pretty. It really wasn't. And I had my staff when I worked at Newark Beth. I ran the emergency trauma department and the whole emergency services. And, my own staff telling me, like, when I would come into work, like, we heard about you on the radio, we heard about you here, we heard about you there. And I was like mortified, and that's not even a qualifying condition. It's not on the list. When I got my medical card, we went with pain because everybody has pain. I had pain. I was run over by a car, so that was good enough, Well, like, seriously, I have a chronic lethal disease.
Oh, man.
That sucks.
I can't tell war stories with you guys. You always kick my ass. I slipped on the ice to start my journey. How'd you start your journey on this? Oh, I ripped my Harley. Crashed my car. Or, like, how'd you do yours, Lefty? I slipped on the ice. Yeah, great. Good job.
It doesn't matter, but it really doesn't
I
matter.
know.
It really
Pain is
doesn't matter.
pain, man. I know. I'm right there with y'all.
You know how it felt like when I got run over by the car and everybody said to me, "Oh, were you high when you got run over?" Like, what kind of question is that?
Not high enough, man. Ain't high enough for this.
I was walking my puppy, it was like one of those, I have to tell that story repeatedly. So anyway.
People are going to get run over on Broadway and 49th. It's insane. It's absolutely insane out there. People are not stopping.
I checked out. We have a light, because this is a main drag where I live. And so I was walking the dog before and I walked past the light and I said, I got to stand here. I want to listen to if it talks. And it does. And I was like, oh, okay. All right. That's good. I know if I go blind, that I will be able to cross the street. You know,
This is Hackensack?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I rode past Ascend in Fort Lee yesterday. They have everything. So that was good. That was like refreshing to actually see.
No, wait a minute. You went to Maplewood, didn't you? How was your experience in Maplewood? Tell me about that.
Okay, so I was told to leave the premises, basically.
Well, wait, what happened? You walked in, and what happened?
And I said, do you have wheelchair access? Well, no, we go out to the car. I said, well, what about if I couldn't get out of the car? And no, that's not how
You
what I
didn't have
said.
a car, yeah.
What if I didn't have a car? So, well, you could come to the parking lot. And I said, well, what if it was raining? And then the chick said to me, okay, get out. And she asked me if I was if I worked for the news or if I was a reporter. And I was like, yeah, I'm an investigative journalist. Okay. She said, if you don't leave, I'm going to call the police. So I said, okay,
Wow.
bye-bye. I'll be back.
Wow.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah,
We'll have
that's
another.
that.
Yeah, we're gonna have another disabled person.
Yeah, we'll do a little powwow. When do you get your car back? Do you know?
In the morning. So I'm ready. I told you what time. We're ready. We're going.
No, I can't go tomorrow. I have a hair appointment.
Oh,
I'm sorry. That's very important.
All right. Well,
Okay.
I'll be up there. I'm going to the police first.
You go. Okay.
I'm going to
then
tell
you
them what
go.
I'm doing,
Mhm.
and I'm just going to do it. I'm not going to even attempt to go in there because I can't. I
Mhm.
can't. She'll
Right.
have to come out to me.
Right. So I mean, if you could like go with me next week, I will definitely go.
I'll go again. I have nothing but
Okay.
energy for ignorant people.
Okay. Good. Good. So we'll go again together, and that'll be fun because then
It's always
know,
fun.
yeah.
I have fun
And
with
it-
ignorant people. I
Yeah.
enjoy it because I educate them and I give them awareness. And if they don't accept it, okay, I'm still going to keep giving it to you.
Mhm.
And I'll be back all the time. I enjoy, as long as my battery is running, I could go all day. I can go for 2 hours with that battery.
Okay.
So,
All right.
there you go. And I got another wheelchair, so I got actually 4 hours I could do 2 hours in Bayonne, 2 hours in Maplewood. How's that?
That's awesome. I think
How's
that's
that?
great. How are you
Double-
gonna last when we have to go to that
Boom!
expo?
What's that?
Is your battery going to be charged when we go to the expo?
Of course, I'm good for about 2 hours of constant riding. So if I just stop and maybe walk a little bit, and I could do that, charge it somewhere. That would work too.
Nikki's going to have a booth, I believe.
Yeah,
I think that's what she told me. I'm almost positive that she told me she's going to have a booth. Kerry Accardi will be there. Do you know Kerry? Kerry has
No.
Canavision. It's called. She videotapes everybody, and
Okay.
she has a Canavision station that everyone can go on and watch. And she's always there with her camera because she's from New York, and even though she's all over the place right now.
At some point, I'm going to be El Rampador going around. So just so you know.
And then we have Waxy Brown.
Waxy Brown next week. Yes.
Yes, you want it next week. Okay,
Yes.
so that's what I'm going to
Awesome.
tell him next week. Okay.
Waxy Brown.
Waxy Brown, it will be really cool because he kind of has the same look as you, and he does a podcast, and he's really cool. He was in the military. He got in trouble. Went to jail. He got arrested for possession. He's got a good story. He's got a lot going on, and he's excited to be on here. I let him look you up first, and I guess he liked you.
Well, I like him.
Yeah, I like him too. I like him a lot. I thought he'd be not just good to be on, but fun to be on, and to bring more of what I was saying before about the community. We are a big community, but we're all scattered into different columns.
It's funny. I think I enjoy the marijuana community more than the cannabis community, if you know what I mean.
Yes, I do. I do know what you mean because the cannabis community is just business.
I want to thank CMMNJ CannaSense, UFCW, JacksonStorms.com, Smoking Monkey, Arlo Glass, OprahMachine.com, and SativaCross.org, where you can donate. I'm going to fix the donate button so it's on the main screen. But if you go to the Sativa Cross page, go to the shop, and you can donate at the shop. But people don't know that, so I have to fix that. But let's do our list here. Our list begins with Jim's late wife, Cheryl, who was my inspiration for activism and awareness, because I was ignorant to the fact that cannabis did all these things. I thought it gave you the munchies, and that's why cancer patients liked it. That's why. And I'm like, no, it's more than just the munchies. It's this whole system you have in your body. And I'm like, whoa, did not know this. Sabina Rose, Diane, Gracie, Cindy Mae, Marie, Jack, Joan, Randy, Holly, Bill, Chad, Jeremy, Colette, Troy, Russ, Roger, Jay, Ella, Hattie. Hattie was my grandma, and she was in and out of the hospital, and I told her I would not put her in the hospital anymore because she kept getting infections. She kept getting those MRSA infections from the hospital all the time.
You get them. Yeah, that's where you get it.
All the time.
Mhm.
So we decided not to do that. And she had a little toe infection. She was in pain. So I would fill up a vape bag up in Spotswood where I was at, and I would drove it down to Spotswood. And a vape bag stays good for hours. So I brought it to her and I'm like, come on, Grandma, we're going to test your breathing today. Okay, Edward. Tested it out. She loved it. So the next day I brought the bag, tested the breathing out. She looked forward to it. The one day I brought the bag and I didn't do it right away. She's like, Edward, aren't you going to test my breathing today?
Oh, that's beautiful. What a beautiful
I
story.
said, yes, I'm going to tell you. Here you go, Graham. Because she knows.
Quick question. It's for Sue. How do you commonly get a I'm sorry, a staph infection?
How do you commonly get a staph infection?
Yeah, like what would you get that from? Like, would that be common at home if you had like an open wound? So I'll give you a little backstory.
Yeah, staph is, it's around.
I'll give you a quick backstory.
Staph is pretty common, and staph is that's Staph aureus, staph. There's different staph.
Yeah,
Cocoa.
I think it was that one. It was that one. The cockle one. The staph.
Okay, so that's more common. That's like on countertops, and it's staph infection you can get from really basically anything.
Okay, basically what happened was
open wound, but you have to have an open wound, or be immunocompromised.
I had some toes removed, and
yes,
actually it was only.
Yes, I remember saying that.
Yeah, I had at that time it was only one toe removed, and during that, somehow I had gotten staph infection, which infected all the other toes to where they had to remove them somewhere in between my treatment and getting it done. But I know it could not have happened at home because my foot was always wrapped up at home. It was never out. I couldn't take it out. It was always wrapped.
Okay.
So I was trying to figure out how I got that, to cause me to lose the other toes. I always wondered. So I was just wondering if you had any insight on that.
Well, see, this is kind of like almost like a trick question. Okay, so if somebody is doing a dressing change on you, or you're doing a dressing change on yourself,
I didn't do any. They did them because I was literally going to the hospital like I want to say day for antibiotics, and like every other day for a wound change. So I didn't have to do it myself.
So they changed your. So you got it from them.
I was going to a wound care center.
Yeah, you got it.
I never had to change it myself.
Okay, let me just ask you a couple other questions though. Are you diabetic?
Yes.
Okay. And so understand that you had, for lack of a better word, from the surgery, okay, from having your toes removed, that was an insult to your system, okay?
Hmm.
And so your immunity drops because it's fighting to do other things. Okay, so staph infections are too easy to pick up anywhere. So it's you could buy wound dressings, and they come out of factories or whoever manufactures them.
Hmm.
There's no guarantee. How do we know if they're for real sterile? We don't,
This is
but we do the best we can with it. We clean the wound well. Okay. I was a burn ICU nurse for 8 years, and those patients got every single kind of infection you could think of because their immunity was so shot out from the insult to the body. um it didn't matter what we did, and we were gloved and covered and masked. And when the AIDS epidemic came around, I was like, right, and I was fine with it because I was used to doing all that stuff.
yeah.
So that's, it happens, and it's these are the organisms that are in the air. They're on different places and what have you. um do we encourage all this hand washing all the time, but then again, like if you watched what was going on through COVID, people were constantly washing their hands using that
Yeah.
Perel and going crazy. And so what you're doing to yourself in that manner is, you're knocking out your own immunity, right? It's
Hmm.
like, well, like, I don't want to be known as the anti-vaxxer,
No, I
but
understand. I get it.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I get it.
It's
Yeah.
it's like the vaccine knocks out your immunity, and then you know,
I
I've
don't have.
never I've never gotten the flu, and I never got a flu shot either.
Yeah, I don't get the flu shot, and I haven't gotten the vaccine.
Me neither.
Nope. They've
Mm.
offered it several times.
Oh
I'm
yeah,
good.
they
Yeah.
push it.
Yeah, I'm
I
good.
do this when they try to offer me. Go
Yeah,
away.
nah, get out of here with that.
Didn't you have to do it though? As a healthcare person, you had to do it.
Who, me?
Okay,
I don't have to do a damn thing.
okay, because they forced a lot of people.
I
Yeah,
have hepatitis C. They blackballed me.
yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
When
Yeah,
I
that's
left
right.
right to
when
take
I
it.
left the Beth, I left the beds. I left the hospital. Okay, when one night when I was driving out of there, where the Beth is, right?
Yeah,
It's in, yeah. Okay, so it's right by the airport and all that. And that's a shitty area to really, the population in Newark kept moving. I used to work at UMDNJ, and that population moved over to the other side. So it's a really bad area. So at nighttime, they would put barricades on the side streets, and the lights would go on flash. So I'm at the light looking up, saying, you know what, I think I'm going to get shot here one day, because I have no, I lost my fear. I lost my immunity to what was going on around me, you know and then I got black and I was blackballed.
Hmm.
And the only reason why Newark Beth didn't blackball me, because if I was working any other place, trust me, they would have ran with the show on that, was because it was part of the St. Barnabas healthcare system. And I was a burn ICU nurse there for 8 years. So they kind of like took care of me,
Yeah.
which was really cool. That was really cool. I had them as support, but it didn't do me well at all because I couldn't really go anyplace else. I was in the Bergen Record, I was in all the local papers, over that. And that was such bullshit. I didn't go and ask to be tested for hepatitis C. I donated my own blood because I got run over by a car and I broke my neck and I had to get my neck fixed.
Hmm.
And I got a call from the blood bank, and they said, and some crazy nurse said to me, "You have hepatitis C, you better do something about that." And, blah, 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 and she went on and on and on. I was like, "Oh, fuck you." Then I hung up, you know? So I don't know. Where was I with all this? We were
Um,
talking about wound care, right?
yeah, we were talking about the staph infection and how
Yeah.
you get it, and it could come from anywhere.
I worked with nurses that got MRSA, MRSA. They got it like under their fingernails, You know, they got actual infections where they had to go, you know, down to employee health and get sent home because they caught it at work.
Oh wow.
You know, I mean, I think I was pretty lucky that I most likely hepatitis C is part of you know, it's part of the privilege of working in healthcare.
Mhm.
You just might get something, and you know, obviously, I wasn't covered enough. I don't know. I don't know. You know, I guess because I thought I made it through the AIDS epidemic, you know, without you know,
Without a scratch.
yeah, not a scratch, not a scratch.
I get
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Thank you. I
So
appreciate your insight.
yeah, but anytime you have a question, you know, I'm around.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate that.
Okay.
So we'll continue the list. We got Jackie
One more-
Rickard. We got
can we add-
Anthony.
Can we add one more person to the list?
That's
Yeah.
always.
All right, go ahead. And then you want me to do it now?
Not yet. Anthony, Jake, Armando, who had tailbone cancer. You ever hear of tailbone cancer? You have. That was a new one on me.
Nasty.
On the tail or something?
It's nasty.
The
It's
last
bone
bone.
cancer.
What is it?
It's bone cancer.
It's bone cancer,
Yeah.
but it was in his tailbone.
Hmm.
Sucks.
That's yeah.
I almost had bone cancer with one of my surgeries. It almost got there. It took a very long time for them antibiotics to work.
Felicia, Lynn, Dan, Sean, Joyce, Lori, Frank, Brian, Flo, Carl, Thorne, Frank, Lorraine, Terry, Charlotte, Cher, Jaybird, Michael, Marley, Colette, Brendan, Red, Rico, Lulu, Becky, Luanda, Chip, Paul, Jeff, and who you adding to the list?
I'd like to add my daughter-in-law Lisa, who died 4 years ago. She had chronic pain, and of course, she lived in the state of New Jersey. So there were no home grows for her. You know, it's not like you know, we're not a wealthy family, and so she virtually became. It's not virtual. She became addicted to opioid prescription medication. And it, you know, I used to make her butter and what have you, you know, and she'd be good for a little bit, but the drugs got her, you know, and I blame that on the conditions in this state. It shouldn't have happened.
What's her name? I'm gonna put it in here. And how you spell it?
Lisa.
Oh, that's okay.
Lisa DiGregorio.
Okay.
Lisa.
Thank you.
This list is super hurtful. Sometimes it's helpful. Sometimes it's hopeful. And
It's sad.
it's sad. We read this every list. Read this list every week to make you sad, because it is sad what patients are going through, and what we have to do to get what we want. Why aren't they listening to us? Like, I feel like I'm banging my head against the wall with the CRC. We've been talking about wheelchair access for years. This isn't the first time we've talked about it, and here we go. A dispensary is opening up all over the place now.
All over. I know.
There's a couple of them now. There's Jersey City, there's Camden, there's Trenton. People are calling me. They're like, check this place out. It's opening up soon. They got no access.
Mhm.
Like, oh, great. All right.
I told you about the one with the mayor, the ex-mayor of East Patterson. His name, Mola. It says right across the sign. I was like, holy shit! I was going to my brother's house. I was like, check this out. Is that the mayor? So when I got there, I asked my nephew, and he said, yeah, that's him. No, it's right on. If you knew Market Street in Patterson, it's like any other like busy city street. The door is almost in the road, so there's no wheelchair access at all. But then, of course, I went on the website because I wanted to just make sure I knew what I saw, and he's smart because he knows the building codes, right? So he has on the website, and I have to get somebody to go to see if there really is a parking lot back there, because I never knew there was even a parking lot. But it says wheelchair access in parking lot. So I don't know. I don't know what that means. Does it mean they come to your car, or does it mean that you can get in the store?
You have to show me a picture of it,
Okay.
or just send me the address. I haven't looked at that one yet.
Yeah, I think I did.
What's the name of it?
Mola, Mola.
All right, I'll check it out. There's a bunch of them now. I'm looking at that are like, okay, I know the counties that are bad: Hudson County, Bergen County. Let's start there, but then Trenton, also Camden, also. Like, oh boy, here we go.
Say County.
Here we go. Like, why? Why couldn't you fix this? This is your fault, CRC. Why couldn't you fix this?
Yeah, I know. It's a shame.
They were patient focused. Like they said, they were patient focused. What happened?
What
I can't
happened?
tell.
Okay.
I can't tell.
So, okay. So listen. So this is what I see. What I see right now is I see a lot of writing going on over this Gaza Israel thing, right? Now, this reminds me of the 70s when we took Columbia University hostage and locked all the professors in the building too. And that was over Vietnam, another war. Okay. But nobody's doing that like for cannabis. So, like, I hate to sound crazy, but hello, I think we really do have to be crazy. I really do.
Bueller. That's what I feel like.
Well, do you agree or disagree? Do you just think like
I think we're talking to a wall. I think we're literally talking to walls. I don't think they give a shit about us.
They don't. They really don't, because I've asked the question too, like, why don't you do something like what, like, and not to jump to another subject, like, where's the women like out there rioting over abortion rights? Come on, my body. For me, it doesn't matter, but I still support the efforts. So, we got cannabis, we've got all this stuff, and they're out there rioting over a war that we don't have any boots on the ground there.
I think the artificial womb should be an option, should be a choice. They need more choices.
The artificial womb?
Yeah, they have these artificial wombs where you can actually have the abortion and keep the baby alive after the abortion.
That's disgusting. Shut up.
I'm serious. They could do that.
Stop.
And I think it's another choice. No, it's another choice.
That's not a choice. No. An abortion means you're not gonna have that baby. That baby is not gonna, it's not gonna become a baby.
Okay. I know one woman who survived her abortion, and she does like talks about it. It's crazy.
Well, we've all had abortions.
No, she survived an abortion. Like she was the baby that survived.
Oh, she was the baby. I've heard about that also. Yeah. That's pretty crazy. Yeah. In fact, I worked with a nurse that happened. And she was we were on our breaks in the back room of the unit we worked in. And she had gone for an abortion. And she said to me, I feel like I'm still pregnant. I was like, holy fuck, man, let's send a test. So we did, and it came up positive. And she sued the abortion clinic. I forget where exactly she had the abortion, but it was in Jersey, around the Livingston area. Okay. And she sued them, And then, of course, she had to sue the resident that she screwed around with. And, it was a whole big, and she had to testify in front of her own father. Of course, the prosecutor had to pull out of her, like, well, what were you doing sexually? She had to like describe that in front of her father. Like, how disgusting is that? What's the matter with people? Anyway,
Yeah.
yes, they do happen. So,
All right. So thanks, everybody. And we will see you next time, next
with
week.
Waxy Brown.
And who's our guest next week?
Waxy Brown.
Waxy Brown.
Yeah. How do you want me to send you his info?
Yeah, same way. We'll make a flyer and we'll put that out there. And
All right, because I have all his info. It's on the Cannabis Nurses Network forum.
right on. And tomorrow we'll be down in Maplewood protesting. I'm going to go to the police station first to make sure they know what I'm doing, and then do our thing.
Okay.
That'll be fun.
All right. I have a 12 o'clock hair appointment, so.
All right. Thanks.
Text me.
I got knocked off, and now I'm knocked off. Good night, everybody. See ya. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.